was about big hair and big shoulder pads and big muscles, codpieces. Yeah, okay, we'll come to that a bit later on. But the 80s were also about amazing saxophone solos in pop music and great saxophone performers as well. That first solo I just played, I'm going to break that down for you a little bit later on. But first of all, check out this one. Oh yeah, there he is. Tim Capello in all of his muscly glory. Okay, pretty much everybody is going to feel inadequate beside that guy. That's Tim Capello, who was the touring sax player for Tina Turner for years, playing Simply the Best. Now, that solo, though, he didn't record that. The original one was done by Edgar Winter, and he's just an astonishing saxophone player in this style. What I think is interesting about the solo is, first of all, the melody of the solo is brilliant, but secondly, the performance of it is amazing too. If we look at what's going on in the music, it's pretty simple, right? We've got quavers or eighth notes and minims or half notes. It's really just about playing it with energy and precision. So 1, 2. One of the things that really gives it that sound, though, are those fall-offs that he's doing. So he's dropping his jaw, to get those low notes. So and I think the way Tim Capello does it, and actually in the Edgar Winter solo as well, is he really leans into those fall-offs to make them part of the whole shape. The other fall-off that happens is a different kind. It's one that he does with his fingers, and that's later on in the solo. So check out this. So those ones there, he's doing a chromatic rundown with his fingers. So he's going from that E, for example, down chromatically as he releases his air and slows his air down. So da. So if you want some tips on that, I'll put a link down below to a video I've done on fall-offs where it gives you a few more techniques that you can use to build up your skills with that. Actually, speaking of things to go check out, I've done a full transcription of all the solos I'm going to talk about in today's video. The link for that is in the description. Now, maybe Tim Capello didn't record that solo originally, but he did with this one. Check this one out. Now, tell me you weren't checking out his codpiece there. What's that all about? Oof. Okay, so powerful. And again though, so simple. So if you look at the music here, it's really, really easy. It's just quavers or eighth notes all the way through. 3, So there's another one of those really cool fall-offs that are done with your jaw. So great. Oh man, it's a great reminder that you can make a simple, clear melody sound awesome if you play it with conviction. Now, I've got something completely different. Check this one out. Okay, Charlie DeChant playing the epic solo on Man-Eater with Hall & Oates. Charlie did a masterclass for our members inside Sax School, which is really interesting. He talks about the process of recording that particular solo, coming up with the idea of the delay pedal and the whole thing. Brilliant. Go check it out if you're a member. If you're not a member though, there's a 14-day trial running at the moment, so the link for that is down below too. When you look at the music for this solo, it is also so simple. And what I really love about it is it starts down low, simple, and then it builds in intensity and in complexity. So if we start at the beginning, it's with one note, so, and then 2 notes, then 3 notes, and then 4 notes. And then we're into the second register, right? Now we're getting really high. So that's another fall off, a bit like what we saw Tim Capello doing, but this time we're using a chromatic rundown to go from the E to the C sharp. And the solo just builds in intensity all the way through. He starts to get more percussive with articulations in there, staccato notes, that kind of thing. And the other thing I wanted to say about Charlie DeChant is it's funny seeing him straight after Tim Capello, because Tim Capello is like the Mr. T of the saxophone world from the 80s, right? The muscles and the ponytail and the oiled up and all that sort of stuff. And then Charlie DeChant's like the banker, right? With his floppy hair and his suit and his glasses. Yeah, it's really funny, but still really compelling. I bet I don't need to play you one more note and you'll be able to tell me what solo this is, right? Yes, everybody knows this. It's like the sound of the 80s, right? So that's Stuart Matthewman's solo on Smooth Operator for Sade. Iconic, right? So different to what we heard from Tim Capello, because now it's really smooth and like sensual sort of melody. Stuart Matthewman, interesting fellow, because he also did drum programming and bass guitar for Sade, a bunch of her albums actually, but he also co-produced and wrote tracks for Maxwell. In fact, Maxwell's Urban Hang Suite, which is a mega album from, I guess, the late 90s. Now, there's a couple things to be careful of when you're playing through this solo. First of all, we really need to make sure we're blowing right through the phrases to get it really smooth. So, all in one breath, right? Again, all in one breath. That's going to really connect the notes together and make it sound lovely and sensual. The second thing to be careful of is the pickup into the solo. Everyone struggles with this line. And to be honest with you, I was revisiting it recently. I used to think it was this. But I was listening to some live versions, in fact, the one that I just started playing before, and I think he does this, which is a little bit easier. They're like groups of 3 notes. Well, they're groups of 4 semiquavers or 16ths, but in a 3-note pattern. So it's da ga 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 da. With a nice short note on the end. So the important thing to focus on here, however you play that first line, is that you hit that F sharp at the start of the solo right on beat 1. That's going to kick you off to a nice clean start for your solo. Oh man, the first time I heard that, I can remember it, 1985, I'm like 16 years old. That was the very first time I ever heard Michael Brecker. And I was in love. I mean, the sound, incredible. Now, obviously, that wasn't Michael Brecker that we're looking at. I know you're all screaming at your computers and your phones and stuff at the moment. That's actually Nigel Hitchcock, who's like this genius British saxophone player who's been touring with Mark Knopfler for years. Actually, Nigel Hitchcock did some sessions for Sax School. He's a phenomenal musician. He talks a lot about his sense of time in those masterclasses too. There's honestly so much to learn. So if you remember, go check that out. Don't forget there's a 14-day trial if you're not. The magic of this solo, this is Michael Brecker playing on Your Latest Trick with Dire Straits, 1985. And the magic of it really is the way he's breathing and connecting all of the notes, the details of the notes. So his breathing, his vibrato, the little inflections on all the notes. He really gets emotion out of every single note when he plays it. So think about using your air, breathing really deeply, pushing from right down low, and thinking about getting those important notes that are on the beat, right on the beat, so it completely locks in time. If you really want to dig into this solo, inside Sax School, I've created some lessons where I teach you this in an easier key, because the original key is pretty horrible. It's like F sharp major or something stupid. So I'll teach you in an easier key first, and that's a fantastic bridge to then learning it in the original key, and of course you can get the full transcription. Now I just wanted to say that as much as I love this solo of Michael Brecker, and by the way, the whole solo on the rest of this track is mega, there's another track which I think is a fantastic version of an 80s pop solo from Michael Brecker. Check this one out. It's like thunder. Now tell me in a comment, did you know this track in the 80s? Because growing up in Australia, I did not hear this song at all. I didn't even hear it till the 2000s, I suppose, when I came to live in England. But it's such a great track. And if you're interested in learning about Michael Brecker in this pop style, then the solo that's included with the PDF for this lesson is definitely worth checking out. There's a couple of really cool Breckerisms in this solo. Check this line out, for example. Oh man, I love that. If you listen to Brecker, he does that sort of thing all the time. And what's happening here, I'm going from F sharp to the overtone F sharp, which I'm playing with my low B fingering. Then I'm going to octave B, and then back to that overtone F sharp, and then C sharp, and back to that overtone. The next phrase has got a similar thing actually. Check this out. So what's happening here is when he hits the D sharp, he then goes to an overtone and then goes back on with the line. Woo! Okay, that's all in the transcription down below. Dig in. Honestly, there's months of things you could work on there. Oh, Andy Hamilton playing with Duran Duran on that track, Rio. My older sister was a massive Duran Duran fan, so this track was echoing around our house when I was a kid. What a great solo. I love the pumping bass line in the band. I mean, it's got such a great energy. A different energy to what we heard with Tim Capello and Tina Turner, but still great. If we're playing this solo though, we've got to watch, there's two things. We've got to watch those triplets at the start. So we've got quarter note or crotchet triplets all the way through this solo. And you can see even these first two notes are the second and third notes of a triplet. So it's 1, 2, tripleta. So 1, 2. Yeah, cool. And he's playing it with a real growl in it as well. The other thing I think which he does cool in this solo are those 16th notes, the 16th note rhythms. So let's have a listen to the way Andy Hamilton does it. Okay, so it's a little bit different to the original recording, but what he's doing, which I think is interesting for us, is he's articulating those 16th notes in a way that makes them easier to play. So rather than going tut-tut-tut-tut-tut-tut and tonguing every single one of them, he's going tut-ta-hut-ta-hut-ta-hut-tut. Tut-ta-hut-ta-hut-ta-hut-tut. And at the fast tempo that this song is, you can then get your tongue around it more easily. Particularly me, I've got a slow tongue, right? So I struggle with this sort of stuff. So that's a good little hack, something to keep an eye out for. Oh man, early 1980s in Australia, you could not get away without hearing this song. It was absolutely everywhere. So this is Greg Hamm playing with Men at Work. Who Can It Be Now is the track. I think it was 1981 when it came out. Greg Hamm played with Men at Work for all those tracks. He also played the flute, like on that Down Under song. This line is interesting to play as well, because on the surface it sounds easier. There's only like, what, 4 notes in it, right? But it's actually a little bit tricky to get your fingers around, because we're moving from E flat to B natural, B flat, high F sharp, and then back to B and to B flat. So the trick around it here is to use an alternate fingering for our B flat. And the one that I find works the best is to use your B key plus your F sharp key on your right hand, okay? So I'm going from E flat here to this B flat fingering. Then I can just take off my F sharp key to get to the B natural. And then I'm ready to go to the front F. So that's these two plus the spatula key, and then either the F sharp key or the bottom side key for F sharp. And then back down to B and B flat like this, or like that's up to you. So E flat, B natural, high F sharp, B, B flat. Woo! It's a tricky little line, that one. Definitely got to get your fingers around it slowly. Now there's a cracking solo in this tune as well, but it's actually pretty simple. It uses simple note choices and simple rhythms, but it's very, very percussive. So take your time in the transcription to work through that slowly, and if you can get it really accurate, then it's going to sound as powerful as the original Greg Hamm recording. Oh, by the way, if you're enjoying this video so far and you're not already a subscriber, then click that button and subscribe and give us a thumbs up or whatever it's cool to do these days. I'm making videos all the time. I'd love for you to come along on the journey with me. Okay, no list of 80s sax solos and sax players is going to be complete without this next guy. Okay, just those few notes. Can you tell who that sax player is? Because for me, that's like so iconic. I can identify it straight away. Have another listen. Of course, that's Clarence Clemons. He's playing with Aretha Franklin, and the track is Freeway of Love. Now, I love hearing Clarence Clemons in this 80s pop scene, because for me, I can really hear all of that inspiration he got from like the 60s R&B players, 50s and 60s R&B players, right? That big fat sound. So what's really cool about his playing when you listen to it is that it's very percussive, it's very simple, but it's right on the beat. He's just laying that melody out, and that's why people can sing along with it, and it just feels so memorable. So let's have a look at on music. It's dead easy. It's quavers or eighth notes all the way through. A 1, a. So just like with Tim Capello, he's got those big fall-offs at the end of the phrases, and he's doing that with his jaw. But also everything is right on the beat. I love it. The fall-offs make it, but also that staccato note toward the end of that phrase, that really gives the shape to the melody. So it's not as powerful as oh, I love that. And check out what happens in the solo, because exactly the same things roll into the solo. Man, I don't know how he does that. That sound is just amazing. For that 80s style, incredible. Check out the full transcription if you want to get up there. I've written it down the octave so it's a little bit more manageable. Have some fun with it anyway, and let me know in a comment if you can get that Clarence Clemons sound. Now I know I only said I was going to do 7 people in this video, but I've got to do that one from the start, right? One of my all-time favorite solos from the 80s. Check it out. Okay, so that's Andy Snitzer, and he's playing Waiting for a Star to Fall. It's with the band Boy Meets Girl. Such an iconic solo. Andy's a legendary player. I mean, I met him back in the 90s when he was doing Rolling Stones. He did a fantastic masterclass for our members, actually, inside Sax School, where he breaks down what it was like the day he went to the studio. He was doing a day job in a bank. He came down, took his suit off, played this solo. Arif Mardin was the producer, who's like a big, scary, you know, super producer type guy. The whole thing just came together, and now it's a mega hit. Incredible. Just goes to show how prepared he was for that particular setting. So if we look at the solo, there's a couple of things we can think about. First of all, the breathing and playing all the way through the phrases. So that very first phrase, 1, 2, 3. So we've got one of those big power fall-offs like we saw Clarence Clemons do, like we saw Tim Capello do. And we're also playing all the way through, pushing air all the way through that phrase to really connect it together. And then the next one. Oh, quite complicated that. 16th rhythms in there or semiquavers. But the next one is my favorite. This next line is brilliant. Have a listen. 1, 2. What a killer line. I'll play it for you slowly. 1, 2. I mean, that is just mega. And to think he improvised that line at the day he went in to record the solo is mind-blowing, right? And then we scream right up to the very high D. With another one of those big power fall-offs. And another big power fall-off at the end of that super high D. Man, that solo is a masterclass in how you do a pop solo. Oh, tell you what, I'm exhausted. Only 7 or 8 solos there, and I know there's loads more we could have included on this list, so maybe I need to do another one of these videos. So if you've got a favorite 80s solo that I didn't do today, pop it in the comments down below. But for now, go check out this lesson to get some tips on how you can get those fall-offs sounding more convincing. I'll catch you next time.